Just redirecting us to YouTube, it says. So, oh, great, wonderful. We are on Light Language Messenger, so we're live already. And I see that it's picking up Light Language Messenger. And that was it because it says the video is private, go to home. What do we want to do here? Can we switch the channel? Switch accounts, and we want Light Language Messenger. Let's see if it does that. Great, absolutely wonderful. Okay, we're on. I can see us live. See we coming through. And that was it because right, we're here. Hello everyone, and welcome to Light Language Messenger. We are about 4 minutes to go before we meant to go live, and we just had to get Light Language Messenger going on live on YouTube, and that is why we got on yet a little bit earlier. So thank you so much for joining us. If you've been waiting, I must actually see if there normally is always somebody waiting. And let's see what's happening there, if that's the case. And today we have got one person waiting. I don't know what that means in terms of YouTube, because it's always one person waiting, and it says we are live in 2 minutes and 48 seconds right now. And of course, counting down. So that's all good. I just know that the technology worked. And yes, this is the problem, right? If the technology doesn't work, then that's something. So I'm just giving us a few minutes before we just say hello to everybody and start, because we said to people 2 o'clock, and, you know, I was early for a change in my life.
I love it.
Yes, indeed. So, Tammy, I guess let's go with it. Let's go with it, because people will be able to see it, right? So, hello everyone, Light Language Messenger, all the subscribers, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. This is the first live that we're doing on Light Language Messenger, and it's an unusual one. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Rose McNair. I am the host of Light Language Messenger. It's my personal channel. And I'm also the host of the Great Awakening Generator, which is a channel for the collective. Anybody who does energy healing that wants to share that information with us can always contact me, and we'll put you on Light Language Messenger. I beg your pardon, on Great Awakening Generator. And coming back to a guest on the Great Awakening Generator, welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I always enjoy our conversations, but wow, what a day, what a gift to be able to be on here with you, especially talking about light language. I am so excited.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to do it this way with me, because you're the first guest on Light Language Messenger. We haven't had guests on Light Language Messenger before now. They've only been looking at my face, and I'm sure that can be a little bit tiring, but I'm so pleased that you said yes, because I'll tell you a little bit of the history of this. And by the way, everybody, Tammy has had an interview with me on the Great Awakening Generator. So if you want to know more about Tammy's work, Tammy's company is a Ray of Light, the Ray of Light Coaching. I said that right?
Yes.
And Tammy, tell us a little bit, what do you do at Ray of Light Coaching?
We do a lot of different things. I do soul coaching. So, combining real life 3D work and lessons with the calling of our soul, and really helping you to dig in and align your whole self to really make the most of this life. I do mental health and fitness coaching, and I do self-empowerment through workshops. I do talks at a lot of women-led businesses call me in to come work with them, and Women in Business has actually thankfully become this really incredible space, and everyone is really very soul-led, and so I get to combine, like I said, our whole self as we walk through and move through the world, creating so much more aliveness and alignment within. So that's just a little bit of what I do.
That's great. You have got an amazing intuitive gift. I just from chatting with you, I feel quite often there's so much wisdom that comes out and it flows so naturally. There's no projection to get into the space. You seem to always be in the space. And I think that's just awesome, because I want to be more like that. I do. I do. I've just been saying that to my guides, and to source and my higher self. I want to be more like that. I want it to flow. I mean, it does, but sometimes we can get tripped up, can't we, about things, especially if it's personal stuff. You can get tripped up because you're so close to the situation. When it's for someone else, I find it very easy to do it, but for myself, no. So coming back to this live session that we're doing today. So everyone, as you know, I have been promising on Light Language Messenger that we would be doing a gift to all of you of what, a little bit of a workshop, a mini workshop on what light language is. Now, I've mentioned it a few times to all of you watching that subscribe to the channel or watch the videos. I've tried it. I've done the recording. I've replayed it, and I just cannot cope with it. And I have to say, well, no, we're not publishing that. And then I had this idea pop into my head last week that, why don't we do an interview chat with it, where somebody comes in and talks to you about it, asks you the question. So we have a chat about it rather than, I've got screens and all of those things, but, that screenshots, and I've got a presentation I've done so many presentations for this. We've got all of that information, but I think maybe a chat would be better, because that seems to be what I can do naturally well. So Tammy was the person I felt guided to ask to interview me. So today, the shoe is on the other foot. I'm going to be interviewed by Tammy. So you're so honorable. You're so gracious. I love it. It's awesome.
I mean, and what a gift. I mean, I think it's such a gift to your listeners, Rose, as well as to myself, to be having this very real, very honest conversation and to learn from you and your wisdom. And I think that your listeners will actually be really grateful to learn more about you in a different way by you being on the other side of the interview process, because you help us to hear and learn so much about other people, and who is this incredible woman that is asking the questions. We get to know more of who you are, which I'm very excited about.
Thank you for that. That's very nice. Wonderful words. I appreciate that. I didn't think about it like that, but I just thought, you do this and it's out there and everybody gets this. And, when the download is available, it's going to go on the Great Awakening Generator as well, because, the work is for all of our work on the Great Awakening Generator. So I put my stuff on there. My guides have said to do that. And so I do that. So I'm going to say over to you.
Yes. Relax. I've got this.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Rose, you've talked a bit about, you had this idea, this inspiration to gift more information. And originally it came through as a workshop or a teaching on light language. Can you tell us a little more about, you said that you realized that wasn't the plan. Can you tell us a little more about that process for you? In how did you know what you were receiving was the right information to change your quest almost?
Well, how I knew it was important to change was I didn't feel intuitively at peace and aligned with what I was doing. And every time I went to do it, I thought, well, why are there kinks? Why can't I do this? Why does it feel odd? Why is it that I'm sitting down and I'm doing this recording and suddenly something happens and it just stops the process, or it makes it a little bit disjointed? And I thought, well, no, I feel like it's more me that's in it, rather than my intuition, rather than source energy, rather than my higher self and the guides. And I really want, more than anything else, that anything we give out has to come from intuition. It has to come because we are guided to give that out or to do that thing, not necessarily give out, but to do that thing. And I just felt like I was doing it from a perspective of maybe practicality, common sense, all of that, and maybe not, so this is when I started to tune in. And you said something quite interesting about a workshop you had been preparing for, and you said, you just knew that it was not you in that, it was the higher, something other than you, something, intuitive. And I thought, wow, that now gives me some sort of thing to think about. And I thought, okay, I think we can't do that workshop like that. And then I started to tune in and say, okay, so how do we do it? And so, here we are, we're doing this. I thought the live would be great because the energy of the live is so awesome. And I don't know, I mean, one person is waiting. We always get that message. And I don't know if it's because we set it up like that. I can't see anymore if there's anybody else watching. But hey, if you are watching and you have questions, anyone up there, please feel free to ask us. But put it in the chat, and I'll moderate as I do this interview with Tammy.
Yeah. What I love about what you've said, Rose, is that there was a point of, I want to say a point of no return. It's almost like you learned a piece of information and you couldn't unsee it or unlearn it. And so it just really shifted the trajectory of what you were wanting to do. And that I love how in touch with your intuition you are and how open you are to information. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just I need to always be in touch with my intuition. And and if I'm not, I know how the glitches come up and how things happen, and it was just not there that day, and I'd rather have it the other way.
I love that. And I would genuinely love to know more about that space. But today we're here for light language, which I am so excited to learn more about because I just know a little about it. And I've got goosebumps even saying this because I'm excited. And I'm sure everybody listening and watching is just as excited or curious. So I just want to invite everyone to continue holding that space of curiosity and openness, and let's jump in together. So Rose, what is light language?
So I believe that light language is the languages that the soul carries memory of, and the languages that we have spoken in other lifetimes, in past lives, in parallel lifetimes we might be currently speaking. It's also languages that we have spoken that are not just on Earth, like, other lifetimes on Earth. We have had lifetimes, our soul would have incarnated in other universes, galaxies, planets, on other planets. And I believe that the soul carries the memory of the languages, that we've spoken previously. So you've heard it. It's different from anything else you might have heard on the planet. Sometimes it even sounds like things that you hear on the planet, but it is the soul's memory of languages spoken in all its incarnations, or some of its incarnations, because perhaps we don't speak all the languages. Because imagine if you're an old soul, how many languages you would have spaces you would have incarnated in, and could we remember that? So I believe that is what light language is. My friend Cara Elliott says light language is the language of light, is the voice of the light, or something like that. It's actually the words of the light. And so she describes it like that. But for me, simply ordinary terms, that is what I believe. The soul carries a memory of those languages, and that is what it is.
Wow. And isn't it, I just find that just so incredible that, our soul has learned so many languages, and it's there waiting for us to tap into it, for it to be brought to light and to awaken in us. So is soul language something that anyone can speak?
Yes, it is. Like some people say, oh, I wish I could do it.
Yeah.
I've had many people say, oh, I wish I could do it. And I'm like, you can. All of us can, because, I don't know anyone that's a very young soul that would have only incarnated on earth. Well, there must be souls that first incarnations are on earth. But I just believe that everyone, even, I don't know about a soul it's its first incarnation ever, right? I've never met any soul like that, or even that I could identify with it. However, I believe all of us all of us have light language, because our souls have been in different parts of the planet, or different times, different parts, different places in the galaxies. And so, yes, all of us can have light language, or do have light language.
I'm so curious, like when you have responded with, yes, everyone can do light language, when people have asked you in the past, like what are some of the reactions that you've had from people?
Well, people say, are you sure about that? Because I don't see myself doing that. And it's, you don't see yourself. That's why you don't do it. And people, when I think about it, right? So light language can sound, well, you've heard it, and some people find it really strange. Some people find it, because part of light language is you do toning in it. And toning comes naturally, whether you know it's toning or not, because you will do the sound or whatever. And people find this, you have all sorts of responses or reactions to it. You can have a response or you can have a reaction, right? And a reaction meaning a negative one, and response meaning a positive one. And so when some people shy away from even thinking about them doing it, because they don't want to sound weird. Okay, that's the best way to put it. They don't want to sound weird, or they don't understand it. And it's like, oh, no, that's embarrassing. What would people think of me, and all of that?
Yeah.
But there are some people who say, I really like it. I really want it. I just don't think I can do it. And so, whenever I've had people who are receptive and open to it, I've said, if you feel like you want to have time with me to bring that into being, I'm happy to do this with you. So, come along and let's do it. And we've done it. I've done it with a few people in recent times that started to speak their language. And, it's like any language you speak. It's, when you start, it will sound like baby language. So, it's going to sound weird. Be prepared for that. That's what I'd have to say. So I won't talk more about that, because I think that's coming up later on in the questioning, but I just wanted to say that. I just want to say that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, what I hear you saying is that it is about just letting go of those fears, the fear of what other people think, feel, see, believe. And it is about, because we are conditioned to believe certain things in our lifetime. And when it is something new that we discover, or even a new skill that we want to learn, it can feel a little bit, uneasy. We can feel uneasy, or we can feel kind of nervous or anxious, or, be afraid of like, what will people think? And I think what I see in you is like just such a trust in the information that comes to you. And, this is what you believe, and this is, who you are. And full permission for other people to hear what you're saying today and take on board what does resonate, and let go of anything that doesn't. But I just want to acknowledge like how brave and how beautiful you are in just trusting that this is, a space that you can step into.
Yeah, I want to just comment about that. Brave can be a little bit stupid sometimes. I'm sorry, I'm taking a shot at myself. Yeah, right. Because sometimes when I've watched them, I go back and I watch it, because I like to see how it's come out. Because sometimes I don't have a chance to review before publishing. And, I want to get the message out because of time and frequency and things like that. And I look at it and I think, oh my gosh, girl, what have you done? Like, what makes you do this? What makes you put yourself out there like that?
Yeah.
Because ordinarily, like, I must have always had this thing about putting myself out like that even if it sounds bizarre, you know, even the thoughts I might have, even if it sounds bizarre, it just pops out of my mouth. And so I think in some ways it's kind of benefited me, because I don't, well, someone might watch it and think it's really weird. I just feel like I've been asked to do this. I have been guided to do this. And so I'm going to do this. And yes, sometimes it's going to sound weird, but I've come to do what I'm doing in all aspects. And so I cannot not do that. I will not be fulfilling my soul's purpose.
Yeah. Do you think that perhaps it's ego popping in to remind you, or, you know, to remind you to like just set it aside and, you know, thank fear for giving you that information. But you know what? You've got this, right?
I think it is ego setting in, because sometimes you review it and you think, oh, wow, you actually said that, or you did that. You know, it's like anything. It's like even when we do the interviews, you know, sometimes I say stuff on YouTube on the Great Awakening Generator.
Yeah.
Because and then I think, oh my gosh, what did you just say there, Rose? But you know, I find that over time, what's been happening with the light language messages is that I watch it, and then afterwards I feel so blessed by it.
Yes.
And I feel so encouraged by it, and I feel so much love. And sometimes I get emotional after that. And I think, you know what? There's that ego taking the back seat there. Or there's that thing of ego going to the background, you know. So yeah, ego does play a part in it when you think of it like that. And I don't know, like there are some people, like I never refer people to the channel. Now I don't refer every person to the channel. If I think people resonate with it, I would. But if nothing like that is implied, I don't do any of that, because I just know that if I know some people that they'll just be highly critical, and they'll be no, I don't need to invite that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I think there's a very old statement of feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
That's
and
right. Yeah.
It is so true, especially when you are someone who is doing something new and different. And yeah, people can see it as weird, but they're clearly not your people.
No, clearly not. And when I say that too, like, you know, I say there'll be people that will, you know, that will probably find that really weird, and they'd be highly critical. I should say though that anybody who's going to be highly critical is not in the space for it.
Yeah.
They're not receptive because they're not ready. And so I'm understanding of that. And so I also feel like, and I've said it a few times on both channels, you know, if you do not resonate with it, understand that you can come back here another time. And that you might resonate then. You're probably just not in that energy space for it. And so it is, you know, and that's okay, because it's all relative and relevant. You know, that's how my life has been lived. That's how I've lived it. Even if I couldn't resonate with a teacher at a time, I just normally leave it. When the time is ready, right, it comes back when it needs to.
Yeah. And you'll usually find that people who aren't brave in their own lives aren't open and receptive. And so, you know, that's okay. You get to be brave.
They don't get it. And because that's just it. They don't get it. And that's okay. Yeah.
So why is it that only some people are doing light language?
I am convinced that it's okay. So light language, you know, it's becoming people are becoming very aware of it more in the last 12 months than ever before that I know of it, right? So people, not everyone's doing it. Because firstly, awareness is the one thing. The other thing is every one of us are individuals. We decide we have the freedom to choose what it is that we will focus on in terms of our intuitive skill, for want of a different word. And so I feel like whilst everyone has light language, everyone can do light language, not everyone is doing it because people are not ready to do it. Or some people believe they can't do it. Or it's like this, it's only that specific person that does that, right? And, you know, light language can probably have this link to speaking in tongues in the Bible, where if let me use this example. I was in a meeting sometime in the beginning of last year, and maybe this example explains this better. And I did some language, and one of the ladies in this was really amused, found it really funny. And she started to giggle, like, as in, oh my gosh, you sound so weird, kind of thing, and that was okay. And then she said, oh, through the laughing, she said, it sounded like it did when I was in church, and they did speaking in tongues. And I said, well, that's something that I suppose most people will say when that was the first time they had any kind of interaction with light language. And she said, oh, and I was in a place where there were nuns, and they were saying that something like that was for people of higher ranking, not ordinary people. You had to be really special if you could speak in tongues, or in our case, we're doing light language, right? And I think sometimes people know of it, they know where they've heard it before, and then they sort of add that sort of mentality to it. So I think there's various reasons, but again, if anybody wants to do it, they can do it. And the first thing is to be receptive to it. That's it.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that, not everyone does light language, because there are still these old beliefs. There are beliefs, as well as, you talked a little before about the fears and, having to be brave, but there is some kind of belief that not everyone should do it. Yes. And that only special people do it, and that it has to be a gift given to them almost, right? Yes. In some way. And that kind of like unworthiness also pops up.
Yes.
In that space too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Unworthiness, we take that word away, because the truth of the matter is all of us are worthy. All of us are inherently meant to be here and appreciate and have fun here. And we are all inherently entitled to all the blessings and the benefits that are around us. Sorry, I was digressing there, but and I like that you use the word unworthiness or unworthy, because I think many people would be thinking that, feeling it, but not identifying it like that. So it was a good word to use.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm really curious as well, because, is it something that like you just wake up one day and you're like, you start speaking in a way and then that's it, that's light language? Or how does one learn how to do light language or speak light language? Do we download an app? There's apps for all these languages. I want to learn Spanish, so I download an app.
Oh, I was learning Italian, Duolingo and whatever. Yeah, that app, right? Yeah. Firstly, you can't learn light language. You have light language. It's something that's just going to come when you're open to it.
Just pause on that. So you don't learn it, you have it.
You have it. That is the power of us. We have the language. I say this because, many times people have asked, how do I learn this? Can somebody teach me this? And I know there's people that have workshops on it and all of that. And to be honest, I haven't been to a workshop with the light language, but light language is something that you have. A person has it, the receptiveness to practice it, the desire, the willingness to be open and to say, well, yeah, I want to explore that side of myself because I know it exists there. It comes naturally with all of those receptive mode things that you'll be in, right? Also, we are doing meditation all the time. Most people now, I can imagine that many people that watch this, that will end up watching this, will be people that will be doing meditation regularly and all of those things. We can ask the guides, we can say to the guides, to our personal guides, I really want to tap into this aspect of myself. But I cannot teach you light language, as in I cannot go and put up words there. And people do write light language. People do write symbols. Light language is written in symbols. I'm willing to get there I'm wishing to get there one day where I can write my light language, or I can identify what star system it comes from, that sort of thing. But it's in us. and it's in us. I will say more about that later on, about how we get it, but it's in us. And there are a few key things we need to be: open, receptive, easy on ourselves, mindful, and just be in the mode of asking and communicating with your guides about what you want. And I think that last one is not even necessary. As soon as you have the desire for it and the openness and receptivity to it, it's going to flow freely. It will come. Yeah.
This is just, there's so much here. Like, I feel like a kid in a candy store. I want to ask you all the questions. And I heard you say that, again, like it's in us, like, and just when you said that, there was just something within me that just, I felt like opened, again, being receptive and open to this conversation, right? And
Yes.
What a gift. So what inspired you to start doing this?
I was working with a group that were doing meditations, and the founder of this group, he channeled the Arcturians. And so there's a local group, and I don't know that they're right here anymore, but at the time there was a local group that had advertised meditation in the local newspaper. And I mentioned it on radio when I was doing my show. And then I contacted the lady and I said, "Oh, tell me more about your meditations." And she explained it. And then I went along to this place, close by, and I went to their Sunday meeting. They were doing this meditation. And what happened was, I got there and I could just feel the Arcturians' energy. I'd not heard about the Arcturians until then. Because for anybody who doesn't know, Arcturus is a star in the constellation of Bootes, Bootes, right? And basically, they can be referred to as the blue people because they are blue in color, right? So went there, and she had all these pictures up on the wall, posters of the Arcturians. And oh my gosh, I could feel them. They were just pushing me from side to side, and I could feel this softness around me. The energy was so beautiful and intense and lovely. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening here, Anyway, from that group, what had happened over time was we started to meet off, like we started to have like a fortnightly meeting on a Wednesday. And then people were talking about, they'd heard light language. And did anybody know about light language? And I said, oh no, I've known about it. I've used it for years, basically, right? After my experience. The first time I had my experience was when I was Christian and in church. And they said, could you do it with us? And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Give me some time to think about it. And I thought, okay, right. So what I think, and then I started to tune in and I asked, okay, so how do we do this? What do we do with this? And so I just had all the guidance about just focus on these points, Rose. I still have my notes from that. Focus on these points and then just take them through it. Because, I have a teaching qualification anyway. So that is to my advantage. So if I had to, show somebody something, I would probably go back to all the principles of how I do a workshop. And so anyway, so this is how I started doing it again. This was like about 18 months to 2 years ago that I did it for the first time. And it was awesome. And then we started to have other meetings, and in there people would ask, would I do some language? And I would do it. And that was quite an amazing thing because it just started everything up again. It brought back what I'd already known and what I'd done years ago. And so, yeah. And now I'm just doing it on YouTube. I just felt guided to do it last year, set up the channel, didn't do anything with it. And then started sometime this year, like late this year, like maybe August, September. Yeah.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is you actually learned to do it in church years ago. And what inspired you to step into doing more light language is a group of like-minded people who were really open and curious about this space.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm just going to say, not to be mean or anything. So I did it in church. I didn't learn it in church. I just did it. And we will talk about that, because this thing of like-minded people coming together and having the same intention can create anything. That is why people in spaces like that, they're receptive and things start to happen.
Wow.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit more about that. You know, when you learned this language in church, what was different for you?
So when I was 16 years old when I started going to church.
Yeah.
And when I got there, you know, you sometimes hear these people, they, you know, they have a part of the Pentecostal church has the way the program goes. They greet everybody, people stand up and do testimonies, and then they go and they do praise and worship. And after praise and worship, at the end of the praise and worship thing, then somebody might stand up and do a prophecy. And somebody might stand up and prophesy in what they call tongues, speaking in tongues. So the Bible in the New Testament, more the writings of the Apostle Paul, and now we're not going Christian here, I need to go back a little bit and explain. He speaks of the 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit, right? And it's things like prophecy, speaking in tongues, discernment, wisdom, word of knowledge, healing. I've already got 6. I can't remember the other 3.
That's okay.
Right? But we don't need to go into all of that. But why I mentioned them, I'll tell you why I mentioned them. Because think about prophecy. Think about interpretation. Think about what people do when they suddenly give you some stuff from their intuition. When they start giving you stuff, I can hear this, or I can see this. You know what mediums do, right? So they obviously, the Christian teachings were never talking about it as mediumship. They were talking about it as the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Because what is the Holy Spirit is the God Spirit that lives within you. And so what is it saying? What's that then? That's our intuition, is it not? Right. And it's from that intuition, they call it gifts, but you can do all these things from that intuitive perspective. You can do all that discernment, all that. And, you know, recently, lots of our people have been talking about discernment. We need to discern the things we're hearing in the mainstream media or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so they're using the word because it's true. We need to discern. But anyway, coming back to this. So when I was in church and then people would speak in tongues, and I would think, oh my gosh, that sounds weird. That sounds frightening sometimes, you know, because they get really, really passionate about it, or they'd make a toning sound and it'd be very intense. And then one day they said they were going to have a Holy Ghost meeting, and people should come if they, you know, have any. They were setting aside a Wednesday night where they were going to have a Holy Ghost meeting. So it's an intuitive meeting, right? Because everybody was going to get together and then they were going to work on being receptive to the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And so we went to this, and the minister just said, right, everybody, do you have a wish to speak in tongues? And so speak to the Holy Spirit within you now. And if you have that wish, then we are going to, you know, this is what can happen here. And so they did all this, the music, and everybody was singing. And suddenly he said, if you want to speak in tongues, now speak. Right? And suddenly my tongue started to move in a way. It was just doing something. It was making a sound, nothing else. I wasn't making the sound of that person I'd heard sounding weird or anything. My tongue was just moving in a way I didn't know, and there was a sound coming out of it.
Wow.
So that is the history of it. And, you know, yeah, that's how it started. And then, you know, over time, we would, every Sunday that they get together and have a Sunday church, they would have that process, because that is what their model was of how they did their services. And you would do what you needed to do. You could do it. And then they started to say, well, you know, that was my first interaction with it. And I didn't then understand what was the purpose. Why did I need it? Why did I want it? What was all those gifts about, you know? Anyway, years later, when I'd moved to New Zealand, I was still a Christian when I moved to New Zealand, and I went to a church here close to where we live, and the minister there was never keen on any of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. He did not, I beg your pardon, he was not keen on any of the gifts of the Holy Spirit bar one, and that was speaking in tongues. And so he was really promoting it. He had come across a book by a minister called Dave Roberson. The book is called The Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power, Speaking in Tongues.
Okay.
And he wanted all of us to read this book, and he kept encouraging it, because what he was saying was, his point, the minister of this church, his point was that if you used the tool of speaking in tongues, that you could solve your life's problems with it. And basically, from that perspective and from that book, what it was saying was that you could speaking in tongues, you could speak in tongues publicly, and or do your light language publicly. I'm going to use them interchangeably, those words. You could do your light language interchangeably, right? As in, you could use light language to publicly, like if you needed to get a message across from your intuition. In their case, they'd be saying from God or from the Holy Spirit. You could prophesy with light language, and you could do your closet prayer with light language. What they were really encouraging in the church was to do praying, your time that you spend on your own, to use the light language to do that, because what it did was it took the ego out of the perspective. So if how we say we're praying for something, if we're praying for healing for somebody or for ourselves, or we're praying for a new job and we were really struggling because all the doubts and fears based on the programming we had came into play, then we sort of got in the way, because then we brought the energy of doubt into it, right? But if you suddenly took your light language into it, and your intention was, okay, I'm intending to have a breakthrough in terms of finding a job, and then you used your light language with that, you charged it with charged it with light language. They didn't say that, but you charged it with the light language, that then you put your ego and all your programming and all your doubts and fears on the back seat, and the higher realms to take over.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what the book is saying. And I'm saying it in how I speak as we speak now, and interchangeably, obviously, with the way they speak. But that is what the book taught. And I got like about 6 copies of this book, and I just gifted it to people because I thought this was an important thing for them to know about, right? So that is how we come to know about it in church. That is how it was taught about. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul wrote a lot of the New Testament books. He wrote them as what they call them epistles or letters, right, to the different churches at the time, after the death of Christ, or the crucifixion, or the death of Christ as they talk about it, or the ascension, let's say after the ascension. So he actually said anybody who stands up in church and does a light language message, right, I'm using our terminology now, should not interpret it, because normally what happens is they do a prophecy. And if you do a prophecy in English, everybody understands it. But if you do a prophecy in light language, make sure that intuitively you know that there is an interpreter in there that can, because he advised that there should be an interpreter. The person that delivers the light language message should not be the one who actually deciphers it, because it can be looked at as compromise.
Right. So you're not supposed to know what it is that you're delivering.
Yes.
And so are you trusting someone in the audience or somebody hearing it to understand what it's meant? Or tell me more about that.
So I think anybody who delivers a light language message knows, you will know intuitively what you're hearing inside your mind about that message.
Okay.
And if somebody else hears it and they do the interpretation of it, what it means is they will probably be in tune with what you're saying and what you know. And the person who delivered the light language message will probably be able to tick that box or not, because they'll know whether that was the right interpretation. It's kind of weird. But I'm going to take it back and say this. I believe that if you have a light language, if you do light language and you can hear words, that is something you just tell. You say it out. You don't, it's important because, we're channeling at the same time. Because I just find that sometimes when you do the light language and you invoke the help of a dragon, or you invoke the help of a unicorn, or you just like the other day, I just did light language with higher self.
Yes.
I find that even yesterday's one that I did for the Words of the Light series, I just found that towards the end, I was starting to hear stuff coming through the language, and that was what was being downloaded to me. So that for me is the idea that you should not interpret your light language.
Yeah,
for me is scrapped.
right.
But I did say it because I know that people, that is a block for people. If they know that, then they think, oh no, but I no, I'm not supposed to interpret it. But who better to interpret it than the one who's the deliverer of it? Because that's the channel, is it not? This is the transportation of the message, is it not?
And as the vessel, I understand, like as the vessel, you must be getting some messages.
Yeah.
And so Rose, I just to kind of really get clear on, when you experience light language and when you speak light language, is it something like, when you go to sound bowl, like it's the sounds also that are coming through at you, the energy, the vibration of, this is sound bowls, but like when you receive the language and speak the language, and when you're listening to sound bowls with your eyes closed, or even when you're meditating, you will see visions, you will see things, or you'll hear things, or you'll, like you say, there's an intuition in that space. Is it similar to that kind of experience when you are someone speaking light language? Or can you tell me, like, for you, like what does it feel like when as you're speaking the light language?
So for me, when I speak the language, so before I speak the language, I just don't know anything.
Yeah.
I have a blank. I just, like, if I think, okay, what are you thinking? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Right. Normally when I'm going to do light language, like say I'm going to do something on the channel, for example, I as I'm preparing, I tune in and I'm like, okay, so what are we doing today? Or they might show me a card. They might show me, I say they because we all have a they. We all have a squad that looks after us. And then sometimes I just like, okay, right, we're going to use that card, or we're going to do whatever. And often I will pull the card out. And quite often I pull the card out the night before. I leave it there and I look at it, I leave it to stay there. And I think often I get the card that I was already feeling I need to do that with, right? But coming back to your question, I just needed to say that to explain my process. And then when I come to it and I'm about to do it, sometimes I don't know what's actually going to come out. Is there anything that's going to come out? Do you know that is the thing? I don't know. And then what I find though, so I might hear in my voice a sound, like a tone, and then, but what comes out might be very different. Because I might say, we're going to say I might be thinking I'm going to say I can hear but then I go and it's like, okay, that I don't know. That's my experience.
Yeah,
it's freaky. Yeah. But it's especially because of what we do. And sometimes we're doing stuff live. Like yesterday, I did something live. Yeah. But do you know what I do? What I trust? I trust that they will always show up. And if they don't show up, then they don't show up. Because at the end of the day, this is not about me. It's about what we all need as a collective, and it's about what the universe, what source energy, what my higher self is feeling guided to, or feeling that we need to hear. So it's just in the moment, it will just go like that. So I'm sorry, I can't say more. I can't give you like, oh, it sounds like a soundboard or whatever. I can't say that. I can't say I do hear sounds, but whether that sound's going to come out in that moment, I don't know. Only when stuff happens and it happens.
Yeah. So you kind of, it's almost like you're so in the moment and you just go with it. And there's just it just naturally unfolds, really.
Naturally.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of trust
Mm.
in higher self and the guides. If you,
Wow.
I cannot do this without them, because everything that comes out is because of them. It's due to them. It is them. And you cannot, you know, I think I've never trusted anything in my life like that before,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, it's like wearing, it's just like, yeah, I take breathing for granted. I take it for granted. They're going to rock up and they know what we're doing and it's going to turn up. Obviously, I kind of got there just like that. It takes some work to get there. And the work, I mean, is meditating, tuning in, working on my life, working on myself. And then, you know, just walking with that hand that I do not see in the third dimension, and holding that hand and knowing that that's actually just going to unfold. It's just going to flow. It's just going to come out. And you know what? That's how it should be. Should never be. I can't see it pre-programmed. I can't see, even when I think I should sing, I have a song that they've given me. Like I have various songs, like I sing it in the shower, all of that, right? And they've actually shown me some myself. I'm sorry, I'm going off now, but I'm extending it, but just telling you something you didn't ask me. They've given me, I've seen myself, I'm an ancient African girl, and I've got drums and I've got all the headgear and I've got the clothes and I'm just like doing the drums and I've got this, they've given me like an opening tribal song that I sing. I sing it in the shower. Let me try doing it here. Never works.
Wow.
I always think I'm going to end up doing it and it never happens.
Yeah.
Because that is for that. And this is for this. You know, it's like in the moment, it will come.
When you say that you have this tribal song, is it the same every time? Like, is it the same as us memorizing a song from Pink or whoever we love, you know?
Yeah.
Is it like that?
My tribal song is the same, but it never starts at the same point. And sometimes I can, depending on, I don't know what, but I can just go and I can just go sing that song. I have a long tribal song, and in recent times, I'm only singing like 2 words from it.
Okay.
It depends on what I'll say to you, I don't know, but you know, that's like very obviously my very personal journey of that.
Yes, of course.
But we have got tribal songs. I think that tribal song is for a conference that will happen in the future. And they've shown me how I am to look for it.
Yes.
It's actually quite ancient African. It's not just African, you know. But it's saying that when we do our language, even when we're doing it ourselves, or we like just start singing language without meaning to, it's saying that's building it, it's growing it, it's developing it. It's, you know, it's just unfolding as time will go by. It's nothing you can take for granted. I mean, I'm sure there are people that write their language down. I know I've heard people, they might even write it in words like we, you know, our alphabets. But I'm getting there. I'm developing to do that. If I'm meant to do that, and I have a desire to write light language, and to identify different languages where they're coming from, because I'm just curious and I just want to know how many languages I have. You know?
Yeah.
There's the ego coming out there.
But I love how much trust and how much sort of just going with it, you know, that you have, just that natural curiosity and openness, like we said before. And I really am very curious, like, what is so beneficial about light language? If it is something that we all have within us, and it is a culmination of, you know, the languages from previous lifetimes, what is so important and what is the benefit of it in this lifetime?
Right. So I'll say this part. For when we were in church, it was beneficial for that time. We were taught you can use that. And again, it takes the ego out of the perspective. Yeah. Right. Because if you were praying for something, whatever, then you'll have your fears and doubts come into play. If you were like asking God for something and then you're like, oh no, I don't know if I could get that. Oh, I don't know if I'm worthy of that, or all that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I think you can still use your light language for that. For your personal stuff, you can still say, well, okay, guides, I want to get out of this mind space and I just want to I want to pray in my light language. I want to, like, I'm looking to, I don't know, I'm looking for good health. And then you can just go into your light language and see what will come out. When you do your meditation, you can do your light language. And so things outside of the limitations can become, things within the limitations can become unlimited in terms of the way we're thinking, right? So this is how you can use that for yourself personally. You can use light language for healing. So I didn't know this, right? I didn't know this until I started working with the Arcturians, that when I started doing the light language with them, I used to feel energy in my hands, in my palms. And I thought, wow, okay, what? And so even now, earlier, when we were talking about the light language, I feel this heat on my back, like, just my midway down my back. When I do light language on the Light Language Messenger channel or on the Great Awakening Generator, many times there's heat going through my body. And so I believe, since having done that and had this experience, I believe that light language is something we can use to heal. And I mean, it makes sense because, if you do your light language and say, like I did this recently with someone in my family who was really unwell, and was really needing to be soothed and massaged, like just rubbed down with some healing oil and just massage all over the body because the body was hurting so much. And I just found that as I was doing it, I could feel the heat in my hands, but I was also doing my light language whilst I was doing this. And, that was a thing that I was doing that gave this person the breakthrough they needed to come to wellness. So there's one aspect that we can use it for. In terms of the collective, this is the most common way people are using light language now, where we bring in messages, where we channel messages from our guides, we channel messages from beings from other, from other galaxies. The message is always about encouragement. It's about, I'll give an example here. When I did my first not message, but this, when the Arcturian group asked me if I would show them, if I talk about it and I'd show them what it's, or give them a sample of it and all of that. Somebody there had a question. They were both traveling together to this place and they were in the car. I didn't know this. Obviously, I only found this out later on. I brought a message out after I did some language, and then I left the podium open. I say podium open because I was still thinking I've got to give other people a chance to say if they interpreted anything from it, if they got a message out of it, right? So I left the podium open for them and I said, please feel free to say anything that you discerned from this message. And then I can't remember very clearly if somebody had said maybe one or two messages or something like that. And then I said, okay. And then my guides were saying to me, now you have to give this message. You have to give this message. And then I just started to say something like, you are galactic. You are galactic. You are galactic. What I didn't know, and then it's coming back to the couple that was driving there and the conversation they were having. The man had said to the lady, I wonder if I have galactic heritage.
Wow.
I wonder if I'm galactic, and I didn't know that because I didn't come with them or anything like that. And I just I just found myself saying, you are galactic, no doubts, no fears, no worries about this. You are galactic.
Yes.
And so I think that's the thing about for the collective, what we're discerning from it is if you have a question, if you are wondering about something and you go to somebody or you're going to listen to a light language message, bring it to the forefront with your guides and say, I want something out of this. I want this language is going to come through. And what is it that I need to find out about? What is it that I'm going to learn from this? What message am I going to get from it? And you will hear the words basically coming to you in the language you understand. And I think that's the thing, coming back to the book written by Dave Roberson, and I refer to him because I read that book 5 times. I
Yes.
gifted it to people and all of that. And when I was reading that book that many times, I had no idea I was going to be doing this, by the way.
Wow.
Right. I just know now why that book was so important to me.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things he relays a story in there, and he says he was in Pasadena, and he was at this meeting, a church meeting, and then he was on the stage, and then they started to have this time of worship, praise and worship, and then everybody was doing their thing, exercising the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and he started to speak in the microphone, and he was speaking, and then the meeting was over, and then a person came up to him and he said, "I didn't know you speak French." And he said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, you were just speaking French up there."
Wow.
He was speaking his light language, or as they would call it, speaking in tongues, but he was speaking in French, or this person who spoke French interpreted in French.
Amazing.
Right? So at the end of the day, it's there, but I'll tell you what the bigger purpose of this is. I believe, I don't know that anybody can verify yet, but we'll find out soon enough. So you know how everybody's doing light language at the moment, and it's really coming to the forefront. It's coming to the forefront because we are becoming more and more aware of our galactic heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I feel that for so many reasons, other than like all the reasons that we could possibly have here on Earth to speak and understand and interpret the light language, this is going to be our key into the higher realms and connecting with our galactic families. Because we are soon to have, I guess, the restoration of the 12 strands of DNA to our bodies, right? And I think even in that, we're going to suddenly wake up and we're going to like, oh, I know that language. Or for whatever higher purpose it is, but it's bringing in healing, it's bringing in understanding, it's bringing in wisdom, it's giving us, and what's more is, what about the fact that it could just be a bit of fun? The universe is rigged for our benefit, right?
Yeah.
And don't you think that this awakening process is to awaken us to all these things we have that live and exist within us that we are unaware of because we didn't come here this time with all the 12 strands activated of that DNA.
Yeah.
Right. And the discovery of this is part of that awakening. So I don't know if that was a ditzy answer or anything, but I believe that light language has a part to play. And there are people here from Lemuria, for example. Right. And, Lemuria, I made some, I was in a workshop last week where they downloaded the Lemurian light codes into scarves.
Wow.
They wrote light language on these scarves. This is Donia Morris, and he's always creating these scarves. He did it for Atlantis sometime last year, I think, and this year he did it for Lemuria. It's about our awakening. It's about awakening us into remembering who we are. And we can remember who we are through the senses, through the mindfulness and all of that. What is our main tool of communication now?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was ditzy or what, but it was like, yeah.
Well, I mean, what I heard you say was it really is a culmination of so many things. And so it can be a lot of things, and just one thing depending on what you need at the time. And what I also love about what you've said is this space of, it does feel weird, and it does, take a lot of trust and letting go of fear, and it kind of shakes us. It takes us away from that ego and fear-based, living, and brings us inward to trusting ourselves, but also connecting with our squad, our team, and with each other. Because when you are someone who delivers and speaks light language, and you're speaking in a way that kind of resonates with other people. You're giving gifts and messages, a little like the clairsenses, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, you don't realize that there's so many people that are connecting and getting messages, and when you get signs like, the couple in the car about, yes, you are galactic, it then reinforces that absolutely you are doing the right thing and you're in the right place, and that's the right language. And
Yes.
so it is about that connection and belonging that we all crave in our human bodies. And then, of course, the healing. I mean, that's an incredible space. And a lot of us, through the language and through the voice and the tones, and wow, Rose.
I'm just hearing that I need to tell you these few things to
Yes.
reinforce what you just said and what I was saying, right?
Please do.
Now, where do I start with this? So a few years ago, maybe sometime in the 2007, 2006, 2007, right? There was a girl missing in New Zealand. There was a girl who'd run away from home in our local area. She'd run away from home. She was angry with the parents and she went missing. And I won't be saying names or anything about it. I'm just going to say this. At the time, I was a Christian. And I knew the person who I knew related to her was her best friend's mother, and I worked together, and she kept giving us like report backs on where she was or what the latest news was. So one afternoon I came home from work and I was doing the dinner, and I was thinking about her, and I just felt that I needed to go into my room and do some light language for her. And I was like, no, I've got to do the dinner. And it was like, there was this strong prompting. I needed to go and do that. So I went in. I just thought, all right, that's it. I'll leave the dinner. I'll just go in and do my stuff. So I was doing it. I was just doing the light language, just taking my time away from everything that could distract me. And I was just in my quiet space and I was just doing the language. Anyway, so I thought, okay, I did it for about 45 minutes and then I left the room and I went and carried on with my evening. And then I thought, I wonder what that was all about. Next day, go to work. And I asked my colleague, so any news about her? And she said, you wouldn't believe this. She apparently, she'd gone missing for months, right? She just ran away from home. She was angry with family and the parents were concerned about her because she had some health issues. And what happened was she had turned up in Te Awamutu and she had gone to a medical center there because she was running out of she'd run out of meds and she was feeling unwell. And turned out that somebody had spotted her there and then called in the people the numbers to say, there she is here. It happened exactly at the time that I was doing the light language.
Wow.
It was about like 5:15 in the afternoon that it happened.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
I just want to say that to you. Now, a more recent thing that happened here at my house. It happened and to be exact, it happened like towards the end of July. We suddenly had a cat, a beautiful, I think, exotic cat on our street here. We could hear it at night and just crying. And we thought, oh, somebody must have got a new cat. And people asked me, oh, did you hear the cat was CJ, my cat, in a cat fight? And I said, no, actually. And the one day I was in the garage with CJ and one of my neighbors called me and said, is CJ okay? Because I've just heard a big cat fight outside and, a cat screaming down near you. And I said, no, CJ's fine. He's right with me. Anyway, a few nights later, as I was feeding CJ before bedtime, a cat walked down the driveway and there it was. There was this cat and it was like beautiful nature, all of that. And so I thought, okay, we need to reunite this cat. So we couldn't find a microchip, put a collar with a message on it. Nothing happened. And then I went door knocking. I went to the vet. I did all this. Nothing was happening. And then suddenly one day I was sitting here to do a light language recording. I did one. And I remember the previous night I'd asked my guide, so what is this cat doing here? Why is this cat here? Because, the cat's here for a reason, because he's found us. It hasn't found other people. It's come to us.
Yes.
And yes, I know I had food, but it's not going now. It's here every day.
Yeah.
So anyway, I I did my light language, and then I went away. And then I came back and sat back at my desk, and something popped into my head. Hey, Rose, do you know when you used to look after cats? Remember where did you go to find missing cats? There's a website you used to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what Lost Pet Finders, lostpets.co.nz or something like that. And so I went to look on it. Because I thought, why didn't you do that in the first place, Rose? Because that's what you would usually do all those years ago when looking after cats.
Yes.
So there I go. And I'm looking after, and I go and look for this cat. And I'm looking on this. I must have looked at about 80 pictures of cats. And there it was. This cat had gone missing on the 28th of June. It came from an area way beyond us. Turns out that the owner's daughter works at the school nearby. I tell you all this because I called that number immediately. And I can tell you that stuff came from the light language. It didn't come from anywhere else.
Wow.
Because I was suddenly starting to realize the night before we needed to tune in about this cat, what we needed to do for it. Why was it here? And we reunited it with its family. Now, I know that's what kind of example is that? But hey.
Yeah. I love that. It sounds like light language is magical, really. I mean, to put it in our human words, this is where miracles are
possible.
Yeah.
I say that this is another tool given to us by the universe to navigate our lives here on the planet.
Wow.
Okay. And if we can tap into it, and if we can start using it, it doesn't have to be for the collective. And, I'm not here to promote light language, because who's going to gain out of that? What organization is going to gain out of you getting your light language? You are the organization that's going to gain out of your light language. Okay. So I'm saying that here is another tool, apart from mediumship, discernment, reading tarot, being an energy healer, doing Reiki. Here is another tool. The hardcore, the crux of it, the core answer here to that is why light language. Why light language is it's your tool. It's another tool gifted to us by the universe. It's another tool we all have and we are not aware of. And I sometimes think, why don't you just activate all the 12 strands of the DNA? And then we'll be okay. But we didn't sign up for it to be like that.
No, we did not.
Because there's so many other aspects to it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe somebody out there is thinking, oh, why don't you do all of that? Let's just do activation of the DNA, the 12 strands of the DNA. No. It's just not like that. There's so many other parties in this. There's so many other players in this game that we're all in. And I say game in the fun sense, not the dodgy sense. Okay. So this is a tool that everybody has. I'm here to say you can do it too. I'm here. Why are we talking about this? Why are we gifting this? We want to encourage people to to tap into their light language and to see what it can do for you. It doesn't have to do anything for the collective. It can just do it for yourself. If you were ever wondering, hey, I have a family member at the moment who's going through some health issues, and it's a chronic health issue, and she doesn't have the answers for it, right? And I've just been asking, and I probably just got the answer now just by talking about this. As I was walking the dog in the reserve today, I was just asking my squad, what can I do for her? What can I do for her? And you know what I can do for her? I can look at a picture of her, I can write down a name, and I can charge it with light language. I can charge it with light language. I can charge it because I know that she's the kind of person that needs to find her own answers. She's on the journey and she wants to find her own answers. But because she's in so much pain, because she's trying everything, the noise is too loud in her mind. The light language is the thing that can help her. I got my answer now as I'm talking to you.
That's beautiful. What I love about that too is it shows us your heart and who you are as a person. I mean, you are just so loving and so caring, and to want to help someone else with the
Always.
gift that you have is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really great perspective for anybody out there who is actually in a space where you want to help someone, but you don't really know how to help them. You know, that there are things that we can do for others that don't require their permission. You know, and I say this in the most loving way and through the eyes and the heart and the soul of love. You know, we can pray for them, or we can, you know, and I say pray, I'm not religious at all, but praying for me is, you know, just sending them love and gratitude and energy, and through light language, you know.
Yes.
So with that said, Rose, I really am so excited to know if someone wanted to actually speak light language, how could they do it? How could they start?
They could start with, I think maybe, you know, there's various ways to start to light language. Some people feel they can do that on their own. And I think that's fine. That's actually probably the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, if you start to sound weird to yourself, then it'll be only to yourself. Right.
Yes.
But the key is, like I said, to be open, to desire it, to meditate. You know, meditation, the more meditation we do, the more we will develop that skill. I call it a skill, that gift we already have, the skill,
Yes.
gift, whatever we already have, the tool we have, right? And so I think if you're going to do that on your own, then do keep practicing that. And also things about it is like, you know, you can be alone and you can play some music. I do it with mantras. Like I do the Gayatri mantra. I play the Gayatri mantra. I sing the Gayatri mantra, and then automatically I start to say words. And you can go like, you know, just toning. You just do your toning, and then it starts to come in, right? You don't have to say a word. It can just be toning, because toning, I've learned, clears the energy space of any blocks and the aura of all the blocks and kinks in it. So even if you have blocks, if you do toning, you know, like how they go, that is clearing the blocks. That is also bringing the vibrations in the body, aligning the vibrations in the body, activating things. Like if you go with the Om sound, it vibrates along the spinal column. It does, you know, it does that. And it sort of also, you know, vibrates the heart. So if you do all of that, because just remember that it is a sound coming from within the vessel. And so when you are doing your toning, you do that. And then I would play a mantra over and over again, and I would be singing the mantra. Take 10 minutes, play the mantra, and then start to do toning from that. And then see if there's any words coming out from this. I mean, I've had people who I've taken through like a session of light language with, and they suddenly say, you know, that's okay, because it's coming out. And if it's sounding like that, it means practicing it, as in do more of it, and it will start flowing freely. That is what that means. If you want to do it with somebody like me, you might find somebody where you live, you know, anybody like, there are people, I don't know anybody. There are people that are doing light language sessions, like they do Reiki sessions. How they do it, what the modality is, I am unaware of it, but find somebody in your local area. You can also do it online. You can, you know, and I say this because if anybody, I'm going to be doing this with people where I do light language sessions. And, you know, that's, contact me if you want one. You know, we can do an online session if you're not local. In the near future, I'll even be doing one-to-one sessions with people where we go through a process. But it's not just like speak now. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be quite beautiful, high energy, going into meditative space. Normally, I'm the one who does the language initially, and then people start to awaken, and I am the one that will coax it into being, encouraging it, all of that stuff there, you know? So there's various ways. And if you feel like you can do it on your own, I encourage you, go for it. Do it, experiment. It's a tool. It's another fun thing the universe is saying you don't know it, but I want you to come into it. You know? So Awaken your soul's language. It's there.
Amazing. So, Rose, you mentioned that you are going to start doing this, and I know that you'll put the links and some details down below this video for people to be able to contact you. But do you want to just tell us where and how, and also how will they find out about what's coming up?
Okay, so what I am going to do is I am going to put the information in the description box once we've finished, being live. People can email me. I do not have a website. And what I'm offering at the moment, just to kick this off, is a 1 hour session. And the 1 hour session will, we're going to take money for it because that's the form of exchange. The 1 hour session is going to be $40 US, and we're using US dollars because it's the common currency. And so it's going to be a 1 hour session. We will set the appointment. I will do it. At the moment, it's going to be online. If people are local in the future, they could come to my Light Language Lounge studio. and we will have all of those things. We will have incense burning and, all of the candles and the crystals, and we will use all of that to work through the process. So it's just going to be a thing of where I talk to what's going to happen in this. We're going to have a chat. The person and I will have a chat. We will just get to know each other. And then we will go through some process of meditation. And then we will start doing the language. Language, for me, I always do the language. And that's an invocation for other people. Because when I'm doing my language, I start to see things and I start to hear things and I bring it to them. And then they start to awaken like that with their language. That's the basic way of doing it. Other people might be doing it differently, but that's a process that we will go through. And, and then we will see how we go, because I'm looking forward to people contacting me, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results, because it also shows for me, that what I'm doing is effective and that it's purposed right, Yeah, there was something that I wanted to say and it's just gone out of my head, but it'll come back, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. This has been so wonderful to learn more and more.
We have gone over the time.
Language.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tammy, because we have gone over the time and I'm conscious that you have work.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us with regards to your journey on light language and how you use it in your life, or any benefits to people, or anything really? Is there anything extra you would love for us to know right now?
So what I want to say is that use the language. The benefit is that you can use the language for yourself. And I've just remembered what I wanted to say about this. Now, many times, okay, let's talk about the benefit. The benefit is use the language, get in tune with it and use the language for yourself. And then you'll start to feel and see, you'll automatically start to know things about whether you need to use it for the collective, or how you want, it's just another way to say, I'm having the breakthroughs I need in my life, where when I ask for this in English, because that's my language, I'm actually not getting my breakthrough. But if I take my ego out of the way and I say my intention today is, for example, for want of a better word, I'm going to pray for healing. And I'm going to then charge it with light language in your, just after you've done your meditation. If you do that, then you're bringing light language into it. If there's anything worrying or troubling, go into your light language. Take yourself out of it. Take your mind space out of it and just give it over. You're giving it over. And this is what was important to say. How I started doing it was I listened to a tarot reader who said, your guides are telling me that you are not speaking to them in the language that they understand. Wow. Right. And I'm not saying guides don't understand English. I don't know. That just happened that day. And so you think about, what is the language you should be speaking to your guides in? Right. This is what the tarot reader said. And I thought, I wonder what she means by that. What is that language? Because I really need to know it. And instantly it popped into my head, speaking in tongues, Rose, because that time I saw it as speaking in tongues, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I started to change it and say, okay, so so why do you think the cats and the cat's family was reunited? I was out of the picture. My thought patterns, my doubts, my fears, my worries, my limitations about this cat being reunited with his family was out of the picture, and I spoke the language, and it connected with higher realms. It connected with the guides that could easily bring it in without any disruptions, without any distractions, right? So that's what I want to say about that, because when you're doing your language, you're reaching you're reaching higher vibrational spaces that we don't seem to do that in the language we understand in our everyday language, right? So the thing else I wanted to say was, quite often we speak the language and someone says, what is it? What did you speak? And I will say, I don't know. I just want people to know that you don't have to know what the messages are. You don't have to know where that language comes from. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because those people that need to hear it will find it. Those people that resonate with it and need a message from it, they will get it. You're just the vessel. You're just the transportation of the language. Just be receptive and it will happen and it will come. And it's quite funny because there's elemental light language. There's dragon light language. There's unicorn light language.
Yeah.
So think about these light languages, and I just mentioned now 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So sometimes all the time, I don't actually know where it's coming from, but sometimes it can sound like mine recently can sound like Terreo.
Yeah.
Sometimes it sounds Native American. Sometimes it sounds Aboriginal. So I feel like depending on where you are in the space and time, you can speak a language. Like I've never spoken language before that sounded like Terreo until this year. And so what is it? Am I getting in tune with my Terreo language that I might have had when I was part of the ancient natives of this land?
Yeah.
Right? So this is what I'm saying. And I had somebody I did some healing with, and she asked me, what was it? And I said, I didn't know. And as I left the room, I heard Arcturing. And then I thought, okay. So the next day I contacted her and I said, oh, I got Arcturing. And she said, yes, it was. Because whilst you were doing it, I'd asked my guides and they said it's Arcturing. But she just wanted me to confirm. And I mean, I didn't know she was doing that when she asked me. Yeah. So sometimes you can speak light language and you can have 4 different languages coming in the one conversation.
Yeah.
And that could mean that it's your 4, that the memories of this or guides are talking through you. And there might be 4 guides and they're talking in the different languages, but it is there for the collective. So not everybody's got the same language that they're going to interpret. So everybody gets what they need to. So sorry, I went on about that, but I just wanted to reiterate that point.
Don't be sorry. And what I do want to offer you as well is, it's about, just that word just, right? Just removing that word from the equation, because it is such a gift to be the vessel, to be the deliverer, the messenger of this language.
Yes.
Whatever it does for each person, and each person, it sounds like receives something very different, and usually it's what they need.
Yes.
And I love that the message throughout this whole conversation has really been, again, about trusting that inner wisdom, that we really do have so much information and knowledge within our soul, and this is another way that we can tap into the wisdom that our soul has, and connect with others and support others and spread more of the goodness into the world. And I really, really love that. And I've totally enjoyed your aliveness as you talk about your light language, the more you tell us about your stories and your experience and what you see, and yes, this is how you see it and what you believe in light language, but the aliveness within you has been really beautiful. So thank you for the gift of allowing us to see into your heart, into your soul, and into your beliefs in light language. It has honestly been such a pleasure this afternoon, and the sun is shining here. It keeps popping in to shine on us.
Yes, to shine its light on the light language.
Yes.
To shine its light on the conversation. Thank you, Tammy. It's really good. And thank you so much for your time and you know, agreeing to do this with me. And I realized I thought it was going to be 1 hour, but we've kind of gone over it. Well, we've gone over it by like almost half an hour. But what I want to say is, I don't know everything about this. And I want to say that is it. I am not the expert on it. I just know what I have experienced and what I discern when I ask questions. And, you know, sometimes I say to the guides, can you please give me a tune that stays flowing like other people? Because you might start a tune and suddenly you stop it and then something else happens. Or like, you know, but it's not like that for me. For me, it's what is, right? So it comes out the way it does. I don't think this was about perfection. I don't think light language is about perfection. I think it's about vibration. It's about downloading codes that you don't even know is a code. And it's there for deciphering. It's there for, it's activating whatever it, you know, when it's ready, it'll switch the button on and it'll activate it and people will start to discern, right? I just need to say that we've spoken so much about light language and we haven't done any light language. And I'm conscious of the time. So I think it would be important to do something, just to say, to bless this conversation.
Yes.
I did want to ask you if you wanted to do something with me, but I'm conscious of the time.
No, let's go for it. Let's go.
Would you like to try?
Yes.
You've done it before.
No, but I'm so excited.
Okay. Right. Let's do something. So what we're going to do, Tammy, and everybody watching, if you want to join us, please feel free to join us. Just going to take, we're going to take 3 breaths, breathing in through the nose when you're ready. Then breathing out through the mouth. And so here we are. Kolonikidana mahi, tokorana he parakachula mahai. I sokorutai na karavahi no korotamahi kutaparanahe. Tammy koroma hishigalama cheleme kicholokatama skorov tantikera neskete. Ira babakalok tanarai to koromahi sukurutatena kishilere la lavuchula temar putadainahi. Itsebera de barera ruhuturi nantlo namalik nanjutla damasafra. Iskoro skerma tonoma sene kitota damai tata frana katoto totati kargate. So Tammy, welcome to our space. Sinikateta. Isko frana se sala shema kerosa satana riketo tomar kiskoto de maketamar kotota pahina kareteto tota kieta. Sounds like there's a message for you, Tammy. And I think this is something you're going to download. If you feel you want to share anything you're deciphering, please feel free to do it. Is it your desire to speak light language?
Just keep hearing all these sounds.
There are
all these.
Go on.
Wow, that was unexpected. That was really unexpected. That's
because it was a tone coming out there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was wow. And it was interesting because it was so certain, and it was also certain when it was finished.
Yes.
And I did find myself for a moment thinking, really?
Yeah, you will
Right?
do that. You'll think, oh, really? Is that really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but I just felt my heart just really open, and I felt very safe and very held, not protected, but just held.
Yeah.
That there's something more.
Good.
Which is really beautiful.
Thank
you.
Yeah. I've had times where people have said to me they felt nothing, and that for me was all good, because at the end of the day, that is not about me. It's about saying, well, we've done this, because quite often somebody who might not feel anything would have had a download of something, and they will go away and do it, because the group that I said I'd done with the Arcturian group, two of them said nothing that day because they didn't feel like anything happened. The following day, one was driving to work, and she started to speak in light language, and she didn't understand what she just started to say stuff. And the other one was doing the housework, and she started to speak in light language, because the codes are there, the memory of it is there, and it will process, and that will happen. It will come through. Wow. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you. What an afternoon. What a gift you have, Rose. Thank you so much.
And if you want to work more on that, I'm happy to have some time with you. Just feel free to let me know. And yeah, everybody, I will put my email address in the description box so that you can contact me if you want to have some light language or a light language session with me. And if you are local, we can meet, we can do it together. We can do it in my office or something like that. But if you're away, if you're overseas or in another town, happy to do it on Zoom with you. Well, Tammy, this is your interview, so you're going to have to say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for holding space for us this afternoon and for tuning in. And if this honestly has inspired you to find out more about light language, I'm sure Rose would love to hear what curiosity it sparked in you. Or if you do have any other questions for her, please do reach out to her. But I just want to say once again, thank you so much for tuning in and holding space. And I really do hope that this inspires you to be more curious about about your own light language that your soul has learned over all of your lifetimes. And yeah, please do share it. Please share it with anyone who you do think might be interested. And thanks once again. Thank you so much to Rose McNair, and I'm Tammy McCann, and I really appreciate you tuning in to Rose's light language channel today.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye.